Hello, everyone. I was recently invited on the Digital Voice of the Customer, a podcast by the CEO of Agent511, Jay Malin. We explored the recent acquisition of Zetron by Codan and the exciting opportunities that lie ahead not only for the organization and their customers, but the wider industry as well. It is my pleasure to provide the entire podcast here, and I invite you to check out the Digital Voice of the Customer on Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcasts. I have included links below and want to thank Jay and you for listening. A sub to my channel would be spiffy and spectacular, just saying. Until next time, remember, stay curious. And now I present Helping Public Safety, one conversation at a time.
Hello, my name is Jay Malin with Agent511, and welcome to our series, Voice of the Customer. Today, I'm excited to talk with Paul Guest, Senior Director of Business Development at Zetron, now a Codan company. Paul is a veteran of the public safety industry and is proud to play a small role in helping public safety one conversation at a time. He is an active volunteer in his community and is dedicated to excellence in public safety. Paul, it's great to be with you today. How are you doing?
Happy Friday, Jay. I'm doing spiffy and spectacular. Thanks for having me here.
And likewise, thanks for joining us today. Big news for Zetron after a number of years of some independence and other organizations. You've now been excitingly been acquired by Codan. Could you share with me a little bit of how you think the industry will benefit from this acquisition?
Sure. Yeah, and it's an exciting time for us. I mean, in November, we celebrated our 40th year of service to the industry, and then just recently being acquired by Codan. Codan's core mission, vision, values, and culture all align exceptionally well with those of us at Zetron, including the unwavering commitment to solution quality, interoperability and reliability in communications, and customer centricity. Codan is the parent to several portfolio companies with separate yet related core competencies, markets, and global footprints, none of which offer direct competitive solutions to those of us. So this is not another big fish swallowing a smaller fish in the same pond scenario, which we're exceptionally excited for. There are numerous strong synergies that already exist between us and those of Codan. And finally, Zetron is going to continue to be Zetron. While this acquisition will provide the new Zetron customers with a broader set of solutions, capabilities, resources, and programs than before, the trusted name and mission critical communications remains.
And what are you seeing from a synergy perspective, both within the industry? I mean, you offer to some degree complementary solutions. Do you see faster to market, more integrated and interoperability? I know that they have a fairly sizable international profile, as does Zetron in some ways, but where do you see that there's real opportunity for kind of pushing envelope in the marketplace?
So I think the strengthening and broadening of that end-to-end solution portfolio is really where the value proposition is. As I said earlier, there is no overlap in our portfolios, which is rare in the vendor consolidation that's been permeating the market space. And we can now take our solutions further into the LMR space, and likewise the Codan customer base and past the market now get to have the end-to-end solution set that Zetron offers to its market space. And as you said, we are a global company with operations in like continents and regions. So we're excited for it.
And are you viewing, as we all view, that the interoperability of solutions will continue to proliferate the adoption and acceleration of next gen as well as FirstNet on the first responder side?
We do. We do see the need for the market to have not only the request for assistance come in as an impulse, whether that's coming from a human or a non-human initiated event, to go through the public safety continuum from the originator to the call taker to computer-aided dispatch to radio dispatch, and then through not only narrowband, but also broadband solutions such as FirstNet to the first responders, and then back to the citizens in the community at large. So completing as much as you can end to end is certainly an accretive solution set that we can now offer with the acquisition.
And do you see that the timing of the acquisition plays well into what, at least I'm starting to see, an increase in the number of statewide RFPs for next generation 911? Overall, general increases in the industry, including the possibility of major funding for Congress for both next gen and FirstNet. I mean, you think kind of everything's coming together in part for you as well as the industry this year?
Well, I certainly think that that presents a great opportunity for the new Zetron. The acquisition itself was driven by a long period of time because we're a company, as individual companies, we've had significant overlap and touch points in the past. And those partnerships and dealings that we had led to the acquisition coming through. So we do see it being a further enablement to us being able to offer our customers the power to respond.
Sure. And overall, I mean, if you're looking at the industry now, there have been, next gen has been out there. We've been talking about it. Many of us have been working on it. We're starting to see some of the core systems, both the statewide RFPs as well as some districts and jurisdictions that put it in place. I mean, you've seen this play as well for Zetron's next gen call handling platform, that now the time will be there where finally you could deploy more end-to-end solutions versus, point next gen solutions with still kind of legacy infrastructure.
I think we're going to see a combination of pulls and needs from the marketplace. As we all are aware, within the United States, the geographic diversity and the local jurisdictional makeup of public safety means that some customers need some need more. Some will move at a faster clip than others, and some will be regional in nature, some will remain independent. So we think that having a real choice and an effective choice provides real competition, innovation, and a refocusing on a commitment to quality and support that have been the hallmarks of Zetron in the past, and providing that to the customer base within the market space.
One major thing or driver that we've seen over the last few years has been the availability of cloud solutions. Naturally, we deliver a lot of our technology, text and multimedia over the cloud. There are some other players. We're starting to see CAD and call handling delivered from the cloud. How do you see that this plays in this overall narrative? And, what are still some of the hesitations you're seeing in the industry for cloud? But moreover, where are you seeing that there's real opportunity both for, Zetron specifically, Codan, and perhaps even us in partnership collectively?
So, as we all know, public safety lags the general technology trends that, say, commercial and enterprise and even consumer users get to enjoy. And cloud has certainly been a topic of conversation within public safety throughout the continuum of services and functional elements that we serve. We're seeing an increased interest in understanding how the cloud can help local jurisdictions fulfill their missions. And again, as we said earlier, there is a difference between like a large urban area that has strong infrastructure for broadband-based communications versus rural implementations where the cost of providing a cloud-based service to the public safety standards that they'll require could be cost prohibitive today, and additionally may not be as survivable as the infrastructure that they currently operate in today. But these are challenges that technology, I think, will overcome as we march down the road. It's again going to lag the general availability of cloud-based services and that shift to the cloud. A lot of challenges do come up with it. Continuity of operations certainly is front and center, as well as cybersecurity. Having secure solutions and solutions that are isolated and able to continue operating in the event of disasters is an absolute must for public safety. Mission critical communications is the business, and that business needs to continue supporting the customer's needs.
Do you see that in-part security in the cloud is inferior by nature, or it just needs to be better understood? Namely, a number of the attacks, some of which have been far more prominent, have been to on-premise environments where viruses are populated and monitoring probes or infrastructure that ultimately turned into something far worse because of the isolation. Are you seeing that any of that's taken care of in the cloud, or is it just a matter of understanding and comprehensively building out a solution that may include cloud components, but still respects the security of any jurisdiction delivering mission critical products and services?
So I think we're seeing an industry within public safety that's, it's maturing as we go through. One of the benefits of going to the cloud is certainly the economies of scales and the cost savings that we can have, and then having, elevated forms of cybersecurity. Conversely, putting all your eggs into the cloud also increases the chance of a major event affecting a greater number of people. Unfortunately, the latter has been the experience of several of the early adopters within the diffusion of innovation and technology in public safety. That going to the cloud early has been painful for some, and we are seeing that maturation of the technology and services get to that public safety grade, and importantly, at a price point that the market can afford. The promise that unified communications and cloud-based technologies had for the business and commercial side is that you get to be able to do more, better at a cheaper rate. We need to make sure that those three legs are also being expressed and realized by public safety, and that we're not getting less, paying more, and having a greater risk of a catastrophic incident hitting the industry.
Sure. And in talking about cloud and next gen, it seems like some of this appears to be incremental. I mean, some agencies have jumped full in and they're gone to cloud CAD and cloud call handling. Others have taken a much more measured approach, perhaps started with, some infrastructure, additional call data, some of the recording, multimedia and video, which is something we've talked about and something we've even contemplated what partnering looks like. Where do you see some of that going? And when you think about, multimedia and video, do you see that there's a call flow that is, consistent with the needed experience for our call takers and dispatchers within our industry, but also respects the tenets of next gen, which are interoperability, resiliency, et cetera?
So I think there's a distinction that needs to be made, and kind of to carry on the conversation, there are elements within the public safety sphere of applications and services that cannot be delivered except through the cloud. And over the internet. Supplemental data, video, pictures are just some of those elements that, really need to be delivered via cloud-based infrastructure. When I look at what our market is telling us for what they want to do, we kind of find that the market is driving what the demand is. There are certain functions that having all this extra sources of information is absolutely vital to increasing the situational awareness and providing a common operating picture to everyone that's involved in an incident. But there's also a sensitivity in a large part of the market that too much information too soon or to the wrong people is actually detrimental to the service that they provide. So maybe as an example, in talking to one customer, they don't want the call taker to see all the pictures or have to deal with video and understand what is the video actually showing them. But they have an intermediate analyst position between call taker and dispatcher that's triaging these extra data sources and then forwarding on what they think is relevant to the dispatcher and to the first responder, providing that enhanced situational awareness and creating a common operating picture.
I think that's a great point there, that some of the flexibility that IP and we'll call it the cloud-based communications offer is the flexibility to deliver and route communications to different sources within the agency who may review, who may dispatch, who may provide a different set of services. So there's really a customization workflow around some of these newer technologies and how to leverage them. On that note, you more than others have your pulse on where next gen is in Canada, and we could probably talk for hours about differentiation and what's going on, but maybe for some of our US listeners, you're able to give a small perspective on what you're seeing in the Canadian marketplace and any kind of quick lessons learned and that they may be able to at least consider.
So the Canadian market is unique and benefits from the ability that we have a centralized government agency that can mandate 911 communications. While there's a similar function with the FCC, the local jurisdictional control of NextGen and the state control of the networks kind of prevents what Canada has done. And Canada decided a long time ago, back in 2014 and 2015, that they needed to modernize their infrastructure and move to next generation 911 and move to it in a planned approach. So they looked to the market and they adopted the NENA i3 framework and standards and have locked the full complement of the I3 end state as a mandated change to the Canadian next generation 911 infrastructure. So we're right in the middle of developing the networks and doing the testing and rollout of that. And we'll see in the next couple of years, we had a pause due to the pandemic, but we'll see within starting this year and in the next couple of years, a full rollout of the final I3 end state diagram. So I think what it will provide the US as it starts to accelerate its inflection point of adoption of next generation 911 networks, a reference point of a like culture with like technology using the same standards from the same standards body that is the voice of 911 in the US. So
That's
we're
great.
kind of the tip of the spear.
Yeah, no, I concur, and we've seen it in whether it be real-time text or some of the other newer initiatives that seem to be in part being leapfrogged in Canada versus the U.S. But it's interesting to see and hear from you what's going on there. I did find it interesting that the first time we mentioned the pandemic in this podcast was probably almost 20 minutes in, because our previous podcasts and many conversations, the pandemic has come up, and I take it as maybe a hopeful sign that getting together in person and good things are coming sooner than later. So, any final or closing thoughts?
The pandemic note is interesting. Public safety never had the opportunity to stop or quote unquote work from home, and neither did Zetron. We're quite proud of the response that we had to the pandemic and serving our customers. And we're excited, especially under the new ownership of looking at the market, understanding that the market still is facing the same challenges that they had pre-pandemic, pre-next gen 911. And that's, funding is their biggest concern. How do I fund the operations? Understanding the human labor component is the most expensive part of running a public safety agency. How do we get better location? The recent news out of the FCC for vertical information is encouraging, but the pace of location enhancement has been slow across the globe. And then getting additional information through that next generation 911 promise is, again, something that we're excited to be a part of, and continuing to listen to our customers and seeing how we can give them the power to respond to their needs and serve their citizens and communities better.
Yeah, that great information. I know that funding is top of mind for many. There is money, at least in Congress, to be authorized, partially hinging upon the accreditation of some of the standards, and then certainly movement and thought about what some of the standards look like. I think are creating a little bit of a logjam that hopefully we can get past really soon and provide the relief to some of these agencies, as well as some of the care funding needed to continue these operations. And I'm sure, as by you, there does appear to be at least some strength in the job market that may be difficult for 911 agencies to hire, and or they're going to see an increase in their costs, as many other industries do as well. So I think we'll certainly see some changes and perhaps challenges in the marketplace as a result of this. And hopefully that funding, as you mentioned, will come soon enough to many of the agencies to provide that level of relief.
It's long overdue and much needed. So, we're excited to work with industry organizations, including NENA, ICERT, and others, on how we can enable getting that funding approved and through the government and into the hands of the agencies that do desperately need it.
Yeah, much agreed. Either way, we've spent time on a number of topics, and I hope perhaps we could do this again and continue to expand those topics and further. But as usual, it's terrific to spend time with you today. I look forward to catching up soon, hopefully sooner than later in person. But thank you again to you and to our audience in joining us for the Voice of the Customer. I'm Jay Malin with Paul Guest of Zetron, signing off right now. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Jay, and have a great day.
Thank you, you too. Take care.